You're in the right place. Hello, I'm Dan Harris.
Hi, and I'm Claudia Koestler.
You're over here, over there. Welcome to Over Here, Over There, a global conversation about how we see others and others see us. I'm Dan Harris.
And I'm Claudia Koestler.
You can send us your feedback on this episode via our website at overhereoverthere.org or contact us via YouTube and other social media. We're talking about the state of the U.S. presidential election, and we're going to comment on the Trump and Biden debate that took place and how it looks from over here in Europe. And just have to start off asking Claudia the first question with, how closely does Germany follow this presidential election and all U.S. elections like this?
Oh, they are watching very closely, I can tell you. Not only that latest presidential debate was watched very closely, but practically anything that is happening during those elections and in politics in general. And who hasn't been able to see the entire debate, which was streamed or even shown on certain channels here, you always got snippets out of it in various media outlets. So if you wanted to avoid it, it's hard to avoid. If you are keen to watch, you have all the possibilities to see it. And as far as I know, practically everyone has seen it and is talking about it.
And it's the same way in the UK. In fact, I was talking to my network over here in the UK, and they liken it almost on par, and sometimes more importantly, it depends on what the event is, than even our own elections here in the UK. It's very closely watched by those who listen to political news. I mean, not everybody watches it, just like in the States, they don't all tune in. But for those who are interested in politics and current affairs, they're well dialed in their lives. It affects them a great deal. And I think the tension around this is enormous as far as who is going to be the winner in November.
It is absolutely the same over here, because whatever happens in the US of A is of such tremendous importance to the entire world, and especially, of course, allies in Europe and Western countries, so that you feel obliged to keep a watchful eye what happens over there.
So much hangs in the balance, not just NATO, but economic aspects, all the cultural and our trading relations, of course. What did you think about the media's response in Germany, and then what you saw in the States?
And also in the UK, I was, as it happened, I was at in London while the debate happened. So I also saw what the British media made out of the debate. To be fair and to be honest, I was a bit shocked about the response by the media about it, because I saw the debate and I thought to myself, well, that didn't go as well as it should and could have for Biden, but that was not my major concern about this debate. When I saw the response of the media, I could actually see how it came layer upon layer, closer to calling it a car crash for Biden, calling it the worst thing that could have happened, and it's kind of spiraled. And you could, if you watched it closely, see that right after the debate, media outlets commented on it, but also emphasized on content and topics and who lied and who not, and about data and facts, and they had that more in the balance. And by one after the other emphasizing more and more about the performance of Biden, you could see how they kind of tried to make it worse by worse and worse and worse. And all of a sudden, it, in my eyes, spiraled out of control, and it was all about the performance of Biden and no longer about the content as such and what hangs in the balance in general. And that should have been in the focus more than any sort of performance. And that is why I'm personally a little bit disappointed how things got, in my eyes, in a wrong direction. We are all now talking about Biden and his age, Biden and his capability of being a president with the difficulties he seems to have on certain times with his age-related things. And all that is true, might be true, But still, is that the main issue? Is that the most important one? I do think there are more important issues to be talked about. And now the focus has shifted to something that is there, needs to be addressed, but shouldn't be that focused in the center.
Of course, there was no fact checking by the CNN commentators, and maybe that was the way it was designed. But afterwards, the fact checkers said that there was 35 lies told by Trump, and there was no recourse to that during the debate. I mean, by the moderators. And of course, then that puts the emphasis on Biden, and that heaped more criticism on Biden to say he should have done better to counter those lies. But I think it just was a little bit of a surprise to him as well. He should have done better, without a doubt. He did. It was a very poor performance by Biden,
I fully agree.
and that goes without saying. Regardless of his age, from what was said, he really should have done a much better job. And same here too in the UK. It was like a wave. You could see it immediately hit on the broadcast networks in the States. The angst and the fear that people had about his age exacerbated by the networks. So we pick up on it in the UK and Europe, and that filters in. In fact, the headlines saying that Biden fighting for his survival and things like that, and examining just Biden, but no fact checking, no criticism of Trump and what he said. It just still concerns over here Biden's performance. So it's had more of an impact on Biden's future than Trump. It's like we have now come to expect this performance from Trump, for him to exaggerate or tell lies or whatever. The one Achilles heel for Biden, and it is a big one, age, that was just blown sky high. So, and it's still reverberating over here. Obviously, a lot of meetings are happening in Washington, D.C. as far as that issue is concerned. But I take your point that no fact checking for what he said in the debate. And to think that we have a choice now between Biden and Trump, an old man, still competent, can do the job, but he's certainly got a big problem with that age issue, which won't go away, versus Trump, which, as we know from his past record, chaos and corruption. I thought that was very telling on your part.
I do think that we need to take a step back and not only see a debate that we saw and the age issue and all that, but we have to see within the debate also for what those two men stand and what party they represent and what politic they represent. And on one hand, you might have an elderly gentleman who might have an age problem, but still he stands for politics that can be trusted. In the last couple of years, he has shown that he has worked steadily. There is stability there. He's a reliable partner, and there is sort of a calm approach to things. So all that is a huge, a tremendous value, isn't it? And that is not only Biden as a person, but that is also represented by the party. And even so, he might have even dropped dead during the debate. He is not alone. He is where he stands for the Democrats, and there are other people. He is within a safety net, so to speak. So that is what he stands for. And on the other hand, you have a convicted criminal. You have someone who has repeatedly lied, who is a misogynist, who has proven in his presidency that he is not trustworthy for allies over here. So you do have two very different persons, but also representatives of parties. And Trump is being on the top position for the Republicans. So they support this kind of political style, which I do think is a bit questionable, at least from my point of view over here. On the other hand, you have an elderly gentleman with age issues, but still representing a party that is more down to values that are calm and secure. And that is what democracy is all about, isn't it? So if you take that step back and you just look at what they represent, then you have no doubt, because you go into the content and the details, you don't have a doubt what you can actually vote for or not. But it shouldn't be just down to age and mutter and stutter, not just down to one night's performance. That's not what politics is about.
And we talk about age, but of course, It's not just age, because there's some 70, 80, even 90-year-olds who perform really well, who are sharp. For both of these candidates, it's, are they competent? Can you see them doing the job? And on the one hand, you have Trump, who, for all the reasons you mentioned, because he doesn't listen to anybody, he is his own boss. He is an authoritarian. He listens to no one. And that's the trouble with the second term, that there won't be any guardrails, because he's gotten rid of all the people from, or they're either in jail, or or he fired them, or they left his previous administration. So this is going to be quite scary. But on the other hand, you've got Biden, who, that issue just flared up, and we just needed him to score a C during the debate, a C or a C minus. But unfortunately, he flunked it. Let's just say it, in the people's mind. He just exacerbated the issue.
Is
So
it
that's
really
what we're
down
talking
to
about.
one evening, to one performance, that you make a decision about something that is
No,
affecting
yeah,
you
you're
for
right.
years?
It shouldn't be. It
Yeah,
shouldn't be.
you have
It's
to
more or less.
consider more.
Yeah, it shouldn't be. From my own point of view, just, it shouldn't be an age issue. It really shouldn't be an age issue. It should be a competence issue. And when you talk about competence, what does that mean? It means being able to make good decisions for the rest of us. And for all the things that you mentioned, I agree. It's interesting because we run a poll on our website, and we ask for non-Americans to vote, because America has such an effect on many countries across the world. So we put a poll up to see what non-Americans would do if they had the chance to vote between Biden and Trump. And at the moment, it's about 85, almost 90% Biden versus Trump. So, and I would encourage everyone who's listening to this to go to our website, overhereoverthere.org, and to place their vote. It's on the upper right-hand corner of our homepage. Specifically, if Germany had to vote for Biden or Trump, how would it look, given, if you overlay it to your current electoral map and party structure and how it votes today? Like, how would you see it panning out if Germany had the right to vote
It's
in the
probably
US
good that we
elections?
don't have a vote in that. It's hard to say. I mean, there is a lot of speculation, of course, and there is just a few hard data that you can pull and then try and relate it. But if I go back to the latest election, we unfortunately saw a rise of the right-wing extremists. The so-called AfD gained about 16%, and other parties that are more centered have lost votes. So there is a little bit of a concern, of course, about a shift to the right wing extremes, and some people actually say that this is because there is unhappiness around, and people feel insecure, and in times of crisis and in times of insecurity, fear takes place. And when you are in fear of your future, you lean and you tend towards some strong man, someone who actually goes there and has easy answers for you. And that is how sometimes those extremist parties get their votes. I can see some relations about easy statements and big, bold performances with Trump. So I'd say, and that is a gut feeling, of course, he would probably get about 30% maybe. Basically, we still have a majority in voters that rely on democratic values, and they are mid center in their views in politics, and they are open to arguments, and they value democracy very much. So I'd say 60 to 70% probably would go for Biden, as we could more easily see shared values with him and his party at the moment. On the other hand, there are people out there that like to give their votes to people that are a bit more on the authoritarian side, that are even narcissistic, that have big, bold statements, don't care if they come true or ever can come true or should come true. That is another point. So I'd say, yeah, between 60 and 70% Biden, the others for Trump. But there would be voters out here for Trump. Yes, for sure. And
Hmm.
some, that is what I gather from some of my talks with neighbors and stuff like that. Some even say we don't know enough about those political party systems in the US to really make an informed decision. So it is not always easy to know the details, where they are coming from, what lies behind it. So there is a little bit of a gray area there. But basically, I'd say, especially given the last couple of years, the last 4 years that we've seen with Biden, it has brought some sort of calmness to the political landscape on a global scale, which I think Western countries are thankful for.
And I'd say that very closely aligns to the UK. I would actually go a little bit further here and say it's a solid 70% that would vote for Biden, if not a little bit higher. Even the conservatives here, who I've spoken to, fear a Trump presidency and don't look forward to it if it happens. And they can't obviously state it outright. Nobody can say it in case Trump gets in, as far as that question of how would, say, Keir Starmer handle a Trump presidency. So you can't really slate Trump too much, or the politicians can't. But in general, the population, I would say it's probably a solid 70%, if not a little bit higher. We have the NHS here, which even conservatives, most conservatives value. There are some conservatives, though, that do want to get rid of it, those on the further to the right. But on the whole, I think this country very much values the NHS, which is socialized medicine. And that would be abhorrent to a good part of America, even though you have the Affordable Care Act now there. But still, I'd say that for all the reasons you mentioned, as far as identifying with the values and democratic values and social values of society, that they would vote for Biden. Although they too do worry about his performance now, given his age. But I think that they would still it's still probably at least a solid 70%. So,
Mhm.
but a worried
But do
70
you, Dan,
percent.
do you think that the Democrats can turn the tide now that this happened with the debate?
I would say that in order for them to turn the tide, they would have to do, because Biden is now 7 or 8% behind in some swing states. That's a lot. And I know there's been a lot of discussions around that. Forget about his age. Forget about his age. Just his performance. Can he pull that back? Can he pull that back on the campaign trail? What can he do now? Would another debate help? Well, what if you get the same performance? So it is worrying, regardless of his age. It's just, can he project that he can do the job? He's been great. He's been very successful on a both bipartisan basis and getting important legislation through. We can go down, the CHIPS Act, the Inflation Reduction Act, the infrastructure, insulin, and his performance as far as the COVID, the pandemic crisis, cleaning up that mess after Trump. Go on and on and on about his successes. But right now, people are looking forward and looking at his age. And what we were talking offline about, an analogy of, it really is very much so with Biden is, will he stay on? Will he dig his heels in and not go, or will he agree to step down if presented with the facts or with arguments from senior Democrats? And it's like the analogy that we were talking about is like the old man in the sea who catches that huge fish, that marlin, as a prize and hangs on to it for dear life. A fisherman, well skilled through the years, and he knows the value of this big marlin, and he wants to make it his last great achievement. And he hangs on to it, ties it to his boat, and fights off the sharks that are eating away at it. And can he get it to shore in time before it's decimated? And of course, we know the we know the ending of it. But it's one of those cases where, will Biden, hang on for dear life, or will he let the rope go? But I think you had some thoughts
Yeah, I
about that
mean,
too.
this is a great picture that you paint, but I think that you have to keep in mind that by the end of the day, it all that matters, all that counts, is the fish that the entire community, the entire village of the fishermen have caught and brought in to feed everyone. And it is not down to one person, one man and his one fish that he catches, however great that is. It is a team effort that makes the day or breaks the day by the end of it. And that's how the Democrats probably should look at it. It's not about Biden and if he can reel in that marlin. It is about the entire community, the entire village, to make sure things work out in the end. And everyone has to bring in his catch, his fish to the table.
That's too good. That is too good. That is too good. I love it. So we'll end on that. Will he or won't he let go of the fish? Won't he, feed the village, or is he going to just do it for himself and bring back that achievement? Stay tuned to our next episode. Why not? So anyway, well, that was great, Claudia. Thanks very much. And before we close, we'd like to remind our listeners that they can subscribe to our podcast by the button below. Over here, over there, can be found on most major podcast platforms. You can also follow us on social media, and today's podcast show notes are on our website, overhereoverthere.org. If you want to support the podcast, please go to our Patreon page on the website, and thank you in advance for your support. Polite, insightful, humorous, and constructive comments are welcome in any language, so please be in touch. And we'd like to say, in keeping with our political discussion just now, we have a special treat for you as we conclude this podcast with our theme song in full, 10% by the Pleasure Bombs. Check out our website for our next unmissable podcasts. Until then, thank you for listening to Over Here, Over There.
About the money the government's found, thinking about trying to pay the round, thinking about the sound of a sweet accent, thinking about the way the words get bound, thinking about the things my mother said, thinking about painting my politics round, thinking about a song called Fred This Down, thinking about the gun inside of my head. Can you increase democracy by 10%? Can you increase democracy by 10%? Thinking about a nun in a cool convent, thinking about the dope that my best friend sounds, thinking about the hope and where it went, thinking about the trouble that we just had, thinking about climbing back into my bed, thinking about the time when my tie got bled, thinking about the gun inside of my head. Democracy by 10%. Can you increase democracy by 10%? Can you increase democracy by 10%? That's right. Can you increase democracy by 10%? The things my mother said, thinking about beating my politics round, thinking about a song called Fred This Down, thinking about the gun inside of my head.